Oh my God, welcome. I'm Catherine, and this is Off Topic with Catherine, where stories spill over, lessons get learned, life gets messy, just like it should. I forgot my coffee. Oh well, doesn't matter. I'll have it later. Welcome to the episode today, and it's quite special because today's episode brought me way back when I was growing up in the Myland, what is known as the Myland today. I didn't know it as that when I was growing up, so I tried to sort of search and find out when that name came about, the Myland, but I don't know, I didn't find it. So if anybody knows, please, you could let me know. Anyways, checking my timer here. So the Mile End was my neighborhood between, let's say, the years from, I don't know, late 60s to 76. When we moved in, we went to BC. And I've been walking through that neighborhood a lot lately. Actually, I always walk through that neighborhood, but more so now because I have a lot more free time. I'm not working as I used to, so which is great. So I have a lot more free time, and I just kind of go and, walk around and explore and see what's happening, see if anything's still around. Not much is. And all the new stuff that, has popped up, very trendy stuff. But anyways, growing up in the 70s, early 70s as a little kid, I remember that was our world. That was our neighborhood. That was our world. And back then, the extension of where I lived on Jean Mance, as I would call it, between Van Horn and Bernard, I don't think we really called it anything, but we referred to that whole area as Park Avenue, or as all Greeks would call it back then, Parkaveneika. So this was what it was referred to, and this is what I grew up knowing it as. Now, when I was, usually weekdays were my parents were working, and we never really did much during the weekdays. But on weekends, this is where everything happened, where all the action was going on around our family in that particular area. So I just want to describe like a typical weekend back then. Saturday mornings, my mom and I would fold our big brown paper bags. We actually brought our paper bags back then. I think we also may have gotten them from the grocery store, but I think we'd bring a lot of our brown paper bags. And once we would go to the grocery store that was owned by my uncle, we had to make sure that we were all dressed to the T. Now, what that meant is my mom would get up, she would tease her hair back then, and she'd put all that thick hairspray on, and just a touch of lipstick with her printed little dress, and it was often my mom and I that would do the shopping because my dad would work on Saturday mornings till about noontime. So we would go do our grocery shopping, and my uncle would always greet us at the store, and he knew exactly what we wanted. So he would direct us to the cheese counter, where we'd make sure we'd buy like tons of feta cheese. We'd get our olives there, and then we'd go to the produce, and we'd always get horta, which is like dandelions, lots of horta. And we'd go to the butcher and get our lamb chops and our little burgers, our little minced meat. And while we were there, we'd meet all the other neighborhood families, the moms with their children doing the grocery shopping. And that was so much fun. I just remember going in there and just feeling like I belonged in that little grocery store. I guess because it was owned by my uncle as well, and we were taken care of. But that was where everybody went. There was just one local Greek grocers near that neighborhood at that time on Bernard. I still have that crummy cough from last week. Anyways, it's getting better. And then when that would finish, we'd always we'd pass by the bakery. And of course, my mom thought she made the best galactoburico, all that stuff. But we'd always pick up a few little things just in case somebody would drop by Saturday evening unannounced, which was very typical. So we'd go to the Greek bakery. Now, the Greek bakery that we'd go to was on Park. And I saw it, and it's called Felici. And it was called Navarino, and it was there for many, many, many years. So just till a few years ago. And that's at the corner of, I think, St. Theater, and it's on Park, and it's right across the YMCA. And that was our bakery. I think it was everybody's bakery. And we'd go buy our little pastries, our Greek bread, our carvelli or our frizzola. And once again, we'd meet absolutely the whole community there doing the same thing. And we'd bring everything back home, drop it all off, and then we would head off out again. Now, my mom was one of these Greek women, that made sure that every time somebody were to travel to Greece, whether it was a relative or somebody she knew, that she would give them things, clothes, to make sure that they would bring to Greece to her family in the village if they were nearby. So we'd always go into these little local stores and these like little bargain clothing stores, again, near the area. I think most of them were on Bernard and on St. Theater. And here she'd walk in, and before we'd go in, I'd say, oh my gosh, I know what this is going to be like. I know what this is going to sound like, and I just don't want to do it. But I did. Every time we'd walk in, my mom would pick up a few items that she'd want to, bring back to her family in Greece. And the shopkeeper, the owner, would tell her what the price was, because there were never any prices. Nothing was priced. It was just a random number. And I don't know, I'll give you a random number also. How much is that pair of pants? Oh, it's $3. Oh, I don't have any money. I just can't buy it, and it's for my family. I mean, all the time. I was so embarrassed because this was all the time. Anyways, that being said, we'd stay there for about like half an hour, if not more. She'd buy a whole bunch of stuff to ship off to her family in Greece. And I don't know, let's say the total price before my bargain mom came in was $10, where she'd end up getting it for like a third of the price. So I don't know. It worked for her. I at that time, I would just kind of do a bit of this and please, oh my gosh, I don't want to hear it. But it worked. And I guess they had some kind of understanding between them, the shopkeepers and shoppers like my mom. It was just understood. So that was what we did after our little grocery and bakery shopping thing. Now, when my dad would finish working at the factory, not every Saturday, but often we would go and have pizza. We'd go and have our pizza on Bernard and close to Park again. And this place still exists today. I haven't been there in years, but it's called New Palace Restaurant, Nouveau Palais. And it's, I looked inside the other day. I was there, so I kind of looked inside, and it's exactly the same as it was, 50 years ago. And I tried to go in, but it's not open every day. I think it's open on Saturday and Sunday and maybe Thursday, Friday. Anyways, I have the schedule. But this was our little restaurant. And my dad and I would go there often. He'd have coffee. I'd have orange juice. He'd hang out with his buddies. I would just kind of sit there. And I'm talking when I was like a little kid, like 6, 7 years old. But again, occasionally on a Saturday after we finished work, I'd go there. We'd go as family and we'd have pizza. And I remember my parents are ordering a pepperoni and cheese pizza, and my brother and I sitting and eating the pizza. My dad, he'd want a piece, and my mom would say, don't take a piece, just leave it for the kids. I don't know if it was a medium pizza. I don't know. I remember her saying that, and thinking back now, it was, oh, really? I mean, as a kid, I don't, whatever. Who cares? I'll have the pizza. But thinking about it now, it's a little bit heartbreaking. What do you mean? Don't let dad have pizza. Let the man have a slice of pizza. I don't know. Maybe he did. And whatever was left over, we brought home. So he probably had the pizza at home. But anyway, so this was our restaurants. New Palace restaurant. And again, it's still there. This was a bit of our Saturday. And then we'd walk down our street and see all the neighbors. And it was just such a nice feeling. Now, Sundays, nobody worked, at least nobody that I knew in the neighborhood worked, and it was family day. Now, family day was, we packed a picnic of boiled eggs and feta cheese and tomatoes, and again, bread that we had bought from the bakery, and it wasn't nicely packed. It was just aluminum foil and wax paper and all that, with all these knives and forks and everything. And we'd walk to that famous Mount Royal Park, and we'd all meet there. All the Greeks, everybody, all the kids. We'd have the funnest time, and we would walk down Park Avenue. But no, it was not Park Avenue. It was, again, Parkaveneika. And I mean, till my parents were alive, every time I would, tell them about that area, this is how I would describe that street. That's how I would call it. So, that was where we were. Now, those were the good old days. Those were the good old days where I remember my dad and my mom giving my brother and I 25 cents each on a Saturday morning, going back to Saturday now, and saying, you know what, guys, here's 25 cents. You can walk over to the movie theater. Which movie theater? Rialto. We all know Rialto. You don't have to live on the Mile End today to know Rialto Theater. So every Saturday morning, my brother and I, pretty much every Saturday morning at some point before my mom and I had done all that, we would walk over. It was pretty early, actually, because it was like matinee, but like really early. And we'd go and watch Ultraman. Do you guys remember Ultraman? Oh my gosh. And we'd sit there for hours, and we meet all the other neighborhood kids and buy a chocolate bar and hang out for, a couple of hours in Rialto Theater. And sometimes my mom, my dad and I, actually, my brother rarely, he wasn't really into that, but, that's okay. But I loved it. We'd go and watch the Greek theater, Greek movies from Greece, with, Aliki Vouliklaki, who was a very, very famous actress, Greek actress. And we'd go there and we'd watch just about every movie that would come out at the Rialto Theater. And if I remember correctly, I think we would pay like less than $2 for us three to go and watch the movies. Probably not even that much. And that was our life. That was my life back then in the 70s in Mile. And now again, it's changed tremendously. Obviously, everything's changed. But walking by there and just remembering all those, little places that I used to walk in. And of course, something that's still there, like the New Palace restaurant, Le Nouveau Palais. It just brings back so many memories. Walking down memory lane. I mean, so much nostalgia there. It was, I just kind of stopped breathing for a moment. And in fact, there were some people that were actually taking pictures of the schedule, because I guess they've heard about it, the restaurant, and really wanted to go and have that experience of the back then. So that's a little bit about Myland, or Parkaveneika, or Bernard, or Saint Viator, or Jean Mance, or Jean Mance, as we knew it, and visiting my old little house that I couldn't get into, but maybe one day. And thinking back to all that and remembering it and never wanting to forget it, actually. So that was that. That was my week. That's what I did, and I loved it. So today's Greek coffee wisdom is this. That looking back to those days and to those moments, especially those moments with my mom when I was going into the little shops where she was trying to purchase all these items. And I felt all this embarrassment with all her, what I thought then nonsense bargaining. It wasn't because my mom was being cheap. It's because she was being financially wise. It's because she knew how hard it was to earn that dollar or two. And she wanted to make sure that she can use it in perhaps another place too, if she could. And she did. And so that's a little bit about that. And thank you for listening to my episode today and walking down memory lane with me. And again, if anybody knows when Mile End, or I don't know, again, maybe it was always Mile End and I just didn't know it. But when, that name came up, you could certainly let me know. And again, if you have some of your own stories about those days and that particular area or other areas, I'd love to hear that too. So thank you once again and for joining me today. And just remember, life's a little better when you go off topic. Thank you.